Alright, guys, welcome to Exalted Edge of Creation, the Aftermath.
Or deconstruction, whatever
Deconstruction. Yeah, I'm going to call it the Aftermath. Where I finally get to talk about what led to the creation of this game. So, amazingly enough, this whole thing started this spring, so it's the spring of 2017 it is this year,
Yeah.
When I was teaching thermodynamics to my physics and chemistry classes at the same time. In thermodynamics, the first law is the law of conservation of energy. Basically, energy is never lost, it just changes forms. And the second law is entropy, which means in every time an action takes place, some of that energy is lost into just background heat, and therefore, no matter what, whenever you do work, there's some loss. So the first law was basically the lunars. They are their whole goal is that killing things doesn't matter that much because it's just energy changing form. So they weren't too worried about going through the city hunting down these corrupted people, basically people who had been taken by the Fae and changed. They had no problem with it. And I looked up some of the most important people historically to come up with the laws of thermodynamics. So the three characters were, my favorite one is James Prescott Joules, the guy who the unit of measurement of energy is made from.
Yeah.
So I combine that with Julian Bashir from Star Trek DS9. So that was who he was. He was, character-wise, he was Julian Bashir. And that's what I tried to get into his character several times. I didn't do as much of it in the end, but I knew Dan would probably figure it out. James Prescott Joules was a brewer as one of his earlier jobs before he became a scientist. So that's why in the campaign he was a brewer.
Yep. Nice.
His animal form was a thunderbird. His tell is that no matter what form he was in, he would have sapphire color eyes. And his anima was a lightning storm. So just lightning. Didn't really come up. Dalton is John Dalton, another guy involved in laws of thermodynamics. He was a weaver and a Quaker, and he was colorblind. So that's why his outfits were always really badly clashing. And that was also part of his tell, is that he always had distinctive clashing coloration in his outfit. So no matter what form he was in, it would always have clashing coloration.
Nice.
And his animal form was the giant, Komodo dragon, worm kind of creature. He was the one causing all the fires in the city.
Yeah.
And his anima was going to be threads coming together, sort of weaving things.
So you were absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah, he was the one.
You guys gotta trust me more often.
Not just like 80 or 90%.
Yeah,
100.
100% correct.
For
the wrong reasons,
yes,
though.
all the wrong reasons. You were correct.
You know what? There are people who have to go through steps A, B, and C to get to D. I jumped from A to D, and I'm still right. It doesn't matter what B and C are. D is still correct.
And our last one is Josiah Willard Gibbs. He's the one Gibbs free energy is named after, which is the entire equation for the third law of thermodynamics.
Okay.
And furthermore, he actually wrote the obituary for Clausius. And I'll get to Clausius here in a second. So I thought that was going to be a fun moment. I didn't really get to show that, but yeah. Beyond that, he was the dog you guys kept running into all the time.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. Okay, just in case you didn't. And he, my character inspiration for him was Gibbs from, what's the TV show?
NCIS.
NCIS. For Dalton, it was Garrick from DS9. So that's why I kept talking out of the side of my face. The guy who designed the character designed the Cardassians said that their spirit animal or what they evolved from was reptilian.
Yeah.
So I tried to play him somewhat reptilian. Gibbs was the nice one in their group, although Jules was still just the youngest. And as a reference to Gibbs from the show NCIS, I came up with a bunch of rules for him, and so that's why he kept quoting rules, and that's why he slapped Jules over the back of the head several times, because that's a classic Gibbs thing. So his rules were number 1, yes, everything is out to get you. Number 2, there's never just a little wild. Number 3 is always settle newly conquered territory, prevent the wild. Number 4, there's always a bigger threat. Number 5, always be ready for travel. Number 6, never set foot on the blessed or in the Imperial Isle. Number 7, the gods talk big, but they'll back down when confronted. And I think he used that one against you guys at one point. Because he doesn't necessarily, just because you guys aren't gods doesn't mean it doesn't apply. And then rule number 9, always get deals with a sidereal and triplicate. I think he said that one with you one time because you kind of got a good deal again on Jules.
Yeah.
And he also said number 11, never make a deal with a Yosi. So for the fair folk, Ludwig Boltzmann, all these guys are German, by the way, or Austrian. So of course, the Germans would come up with the idea of everything is going to end with all the energy in the universe being lost eventually. But their idea was that no matter what happens in creation, it's just going to slowly grind away. And entropy, yeah. He was called the probability of position, and his inspiration for his character was Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast. So he had the mustache.
Right, what I thought of, yeah.
Exactly. So his mustache was supposed to be like telling time kind of thing. Amazingly enough, he hung himself in the end. Clausius.
Was that in the director's cut?
Yeah, no, the actual
dude.
person. The actual person. Clausius is named and conceptualized entropy, so I decided to make
Beauty and the Beast, the live action version.
Oh gosh!
And when they're dancing, if you look in the background,
it's still telling time.
So many kids are going to go and pause that movie now.
Therefore, I decided. So he's the named and conceptualized entropy. So I decided to make him the leader of the group, and I called him the architect of decline.
Okay.
And he was the one you met in the forest, the very first episode.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a chick.
Nope.
No, he was.
That was his like real form that you were seeing, or like his spiritual form, I guess, that you were seeing.
The fake form.
Yeah.
No, you used the same voice.
Yeah.
When he first introduced himself on the wall, I was like,
Yep.
I did a double take because it was the same voice from the first step.
Constantine Cathederoy, or Cathederoy, I can't.
Anyways.
Was the youngest of the three. He's irreversible chaos. I almost went with irreversible entropy, but I decided that was a little bit too much on the nose. And yeah, I loved it when you guys first met him, and you tried to put a tie of, oh yeah, we're buddy, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. And so I gave him at the end an ability that he actually got bonus dice against anybody who had a tie with him. So on his attacks.
And I'd like to mention, if you remember, I didn't like him at all either.
No,
you didn't like anybody. Shut up.
I liked him. I liked you at first until you started being a dick.
Yep.
No, you didn't really like me at first either.
No.
Yeah, no. First couple of episodes.
He was okay with you for a little while.
And then you were like, yeah, I'm just going to like make him a leash and I'm going to steal from him and then put it back. Yeah. It's like, okay, you're a dick.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for.
Once you became a dick, I
was a dick the entire time.
Not at the very beginning because we were all trying to survive.
I did try to foreshadow things very heavily at the beginning of the game. When Morez was going to investigate that area and where he found his bird Sova, I had a wolf cry, or a bark sounding, the hunt kind of sound bark, and that was Gibbs. Gibbs. He had found one of the Fae-infested people. And you noticed the next day you heard about a murder. And I think it was one of the burning times.
Okay.
So they had been hunting through the entire game.
Yeah.
I also tried to throw a little bit of foreshadowing that eventually the undead were going to be coming, and so that's why I mentioned something happened in the southeast when you went in to talk to Constantine in like the second time.
Did not think
I did not expect you guys to drop everything and go after that. That was just a moment of foreshadowing. Okay, that'll be something for the future, and then you as Otto were like, "Yep, let's go. We're out of here." And I'm like,
Well, I insisted on it too because of my intimacies.
Yes, so I didn't think about it far enough. I mean, it was just like, oh, I'm on a roll. I'm getting this foreshadowing going. It's great. And so I threw a little bit too much in, and you guys were like, "Let's go." And I actually talked about
it wasn't rumor
Yeah.
that we heard. It was somebody asking for help.
Yep, exactly. And so I had to like real quickly come up with, okay, what's happening down there? And it wasn't too bad because I knew where it was, where the location was, and I knew what was happening there. So it was very well possible that you guys could have gone there at some point, and I knew that was a possibility from the beginning of the game. So it wasn't too bad. I just had to decide, okay, what does this village out here look like, and what's happening there? And yeah, the soldat were basically conscripting soldiers the way they saw it.
Yeah.
The way they saw it is they were just doing conscription. And amazingly enough, the soldat are have died, but they were originally soldiers of your original Circle of Five.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, you helped create them, or rather, your ancestor or your previous incarnations helped create them.
Right.
Kind of like a super soldier serum kind of thing. They used your blood to help.
I figured that when we met with the mistress of
Plate and Bone.
Yeah. So what was?
Speaking of which, remember I said early on in Exalted, the Solars end up forming a Circle of Five.
Yeah, and it was her and the one on the dragon were the other two of our five.
So the thing is, when
I still didn't like them.
Yes, no, that's fine. They're supposed to be creepy and weird. Because what happened is when the Solars were released from the prison, part of the deal that does that gives some of their essences to the Yozi. And so the Yozi, the Death Lords, as they're also called, they have too many names, it's kind of confusing. But they actually took some of them and corrupted them and turned them into Abyssal Exalted. So they have all the power of a Solar, but they're basically in some ways enslaved and sort of mirror images of a Solar. So everything, it's kind of Link and Dark Link here. Everything you want to do, they want to do more or less the opposite. And their goal is to basically destroy creation in such a way.
That's why they had the purple.
Yeah, that's why they had the black light color. Their goal is, and this is my take on things, their goal is actually to permanently end creation in such a way that everything becomes pure void. So whereas
the Fae want the wild.
The Fae want the wild to overwhelm creation and turn it back into pure chaos, they want exactly the opposite. They want pure void, nothing. No energy, no nothing. Which means they are mutually exclusive with each other in the same way that the Fae is mutually exclusive with people wanting creation to exist.
Yeah.
So it's this weird three-way thing where either any of them can become allies with whatever one is also losing to take out the victor, or whoever's in the greatest strength. So because those two were the rest of your group, they were drawn to you. Furthermore, the three lunars you saw were tied to one person in the group because your lunar mates are drawn to you as well. I had two more that I could have introduced at the end, but I was like, yeah, we're good. But Jules was yours.
Yeah,
that's why the second he met you, he was just and the love struck thing, and I'm glad you guys caught on that. I did it well enough that you guys picked up on, oh, I think you have an admirer. Yep. He didn't understand it at first, but figured it out eventually. Mostly Gibbs going, guess what we found? Gibbs was paired with Passion and the what's his name was with the Mistress of Plate and Bone.
Hmm.
Dalton was. And so there was potentiality for them to try to save those two if you tried to attack them. They might have ended up having to step in and try to stop you guys. And so that was one of the possible outcomes of this whole thing, is that they end up siding against you. But you guys all sided against the Fae, which suited Passion and the Mistress just fine. And the thing you guys were fighting over, I kept mentioning this big weapon, powerful weapon, could destroy things. Basically, this was a weapon intended to destroy an army on the doorstep of Whitewall.
Yeah.
So basically what it does is it cuts out a giant hole in creation and just drops that piece of creation out, which means that location turns into pure deep wild instantly, which is okay because there are high-level solar charms where you're just like, and now it's this.
Yeah.
And so the intention is drop out that army and then recreate it into whatever you want. And so it's, whatever, not a big deal.
The lore charms.
Yeah, the lore charms. But if you don't have a high enough level solar to do that, then it's pure wild.
Yeah.
So if the fair folk could get a hold of it and use that weapon, they could be like, bam, we're at home right here. This is our home now. And the weapon was created by solars going into their levels of pure like insanity near the end. Obviously, as a weapon that powerful, they're going into insanity. So when they made it so that it could be fired on the north side of the wall or the south side of the wall. So they could have dropped out the city as well.
Yeah.
It could only be fired by a solar. Again, going with that insanity and paranoia. But the fair folk were trying to corrupt the city in such a way that they could change it so they could use it. And the Abyssals would have been able to use it as well.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest questions for me during this game was who caused the whole conflict to begin with. Because I knew it happened. Like from the get-go of the location and what's happening, I knew that somebody was going to come in and take the sacrifice away and cause the whole thing to happen. But the crazy thing was, it wasn't until the last recording session that I actually knew who did it. And it took me a long time to figure out, because I didn't know from the beginning. I was like, there was 3 or 4 different groups that could have done this.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, that was part of it, is there were so many different groups that could have done this.
Yeah, I know.
The what are they called? The fair folk could have done it because they wanted, like, they were ready.
Yeah.
And all they needed was something to break the truce, and they could have started things up. The Abyssals wanted it to happen because they also had to have a reason to march on Whitewall and get rid of the fair folk. And they wanted to control that weapon because that's a good defense against the South, against the realm. The Lunars could have done it because they had an inclination that you guys were in the area, and they knew it would draw you in, and they needed help to get this done. So they could have done it, and either way, they disapprove of anything that helps out Yosi and Fairfolk. Like, that's just garbage. If you have to pay them, then you're just giving them a reason to come back with greater force, as far as they're concerned. And lastly, the guy you met up with, Zeph, which is short for Zephaniah, he is a Sidereal Exalted. And he is of the second faction of Sidereals. So there's actually a split in the Sidereals on what they think about the usurpation. The leading group was of the mind that destroying the Solars was necessary for the world to continue to exist. Otherwise, the world was just going to unravel and destroy itself.
Yeah.
The other faction that this guy belongs to said, what good is creation existing if it's just going to eventually go away? We need the Solars back. Creation cannot survive without them.
Yeah.
And so his faction is actually part of what got the Solars out of their prison, got the Solar Essence out of the prison. And so his goal in things was to try
help
to
along.
help you along. Yep.
To protect creation.
Yes. And it was finally in that last session that I realized it was him that did it, because he's the only one that could foresee all the possible strands coming together to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think you figured that one out.
Yeah.
Once you started talking to him. And that charm that power he used where he rewound time is something that they have as a defensive charm for themselves. But I figured as a more powerful person, he could do that with a group of people. And so that's how he did it. And the way he got from Whitewall to that city to the north is he actually went through, he used a path to basically heaven, walked through heaven, and then came out in the other location.
Well, I knew he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't physically travel the just intervening distance.
Yeah. That's why I made the comment, are we tree striding or are we traveling through shadow or something?
But that's part of why he was kicked out, is because he's of the lesser faction, the smaller faction, and so he's kind of out of favor right now. His speeches, by the way, to an immaculate monk would sound appropriate. He's using a charm to basically hide hidden meaning into things, so he can be saying one thing and teaching something else. So that's why it was causing so much of a stir in the city, is despite what he was saying is on immaculate text lines, it's actually teaching a different effect. So he was actually trying to raise up support for you guys in the city.
Yeah, I began to intuit that.
Yep.
It's like,
I tried really hard to not specifically say things, but put them out there to be seen.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like some places I succeeded, at least with you. I don't know if the other guys picked up on them all, but I tried really hard to put them there without making them too obvious.
Well, that was interesting.
No.
I think we all picked up on some of it. And
Yeah.
Not always the same.
I knew when Dan picked on it, because go, oh, and so I was like, okay, but you keep a straighter face than Dan does.
Yeah.
So earlier, way back when in like the second session, I was asking you guys how much or what your thoughts were on things. So how much of that did you pick up on, Scott, back in the day? Do you remember?
Pick up on what?
Just everything I've been talking about here.
I picked up on some of it. Some of it I missed. Especially the things like the shows I haven't seen or haven't seen in a long time.
Seen DS9 or
I've seen DS9, and I didn't pick up on Jules, but I did pick up on
Garrick.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also been years since I've watched DS9, so I've never seen NCIS or any of those, so I had no clue about the Gibbs thing.
Yeah, I threw that in for Tim mostly because our family's been watching a lot of NCIS in the last couple years.
Definitely. I mean, I know you guys were giving me shit because it was kind of an abstract jump, but it was the only thing that made sense to me. Like, I as a player, not just playing my character and mishearing, that just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But I as a player knew at that point. And I think there was some other, like, I don't remember specifically, but just some of the ways they were acting. And it may have been just that they were lunar and I read that wrong.
Yeah.
But they were already suspicious to me.
Yeah.
And that just...
Yeah, I think it was that they were lunar that you picked up on.
In my brain, it clicked that they're the ones setting...
And I did that purposefully because I wanted everybody here and every group of people in this story to be in a gray area.
Yeah.
None of them being good, and all of them having at least some bad.
Yeah.
So I've like them straight up just murdering folks. I mean, yes, those folks were already dead, technically.
Yeah.
But they weren't too concerned with collateral damage either. And so I wanted them to be that, so that there was the potential. It wasn't just, oh yeah, the Lunars are your allies, of course. I wanted it to be, oh no, these guys could end up being the enemies if you guys wanted to.
Right.
And there was times
to the end, do I considered them enemies? I did not consider them allies at all. But as far as that goes, and I remember the first time we met Constantine, I wanted to fight. I didn't like him. I was about to. And you talked me down from that. Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna, and you're like, nope.
Yep.
There was just something off about him, and then I kind of let it go because he kind of, these two were working out stuff,
Oh yeah.
So I kind of let it slide, but like just that
was
initial
loving that.
gut reaction was like, I don't know. But when it came to finding the Fae thing that crawled out of the guy,
Yeah.
he was the only one
That you could go to at that
that
point.
I could go to at that point.
Yep.
It's not that I fully trusted
Yeah,
him, but
when he was saying that they didn't believe you,
Yeah, you were.
that
like,
was the
warning
first
bells.
moment where I was like,
yeah.
Oh man, like you cannot believe how much I have been excited for that reveal when I finally got to go, ha ha ha, ha, I gotcha. Or the characters got you, but
Yeah.
still, I've been holding on to that moment for so long.
The other two members of our circle I picked up on right away. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know, like I picked up on it. I'm like, they're the other person, but they weren't acting in a way that would befriend them to Siku, so he didn't really like them.
Yeah. And again, they're like,
and
they also have had elements where they just didn't care about normal people anymore because their goal is they're actually more worried about people who have already died. So they're more of the champions of the dead and the champions of those who are stuck in hell, basically.
Right. Yeah, they had kind of almost a Hela, Norse Queen of Hell vibe. Like,
yes,
that was the vibe I was getting off them. It was
my influences for them. For the Mistress of Plate and Bone is a webcomic called Girl Genius. You should really check it out. It's pretty cool. Yeah, her story is that she's like the descendant from this line of people that used to control a section of their version of Europe, and she's like an orphan kind of thing, but she's recovering her birthright. And the Soldat, I think they're literally called Soldat. I think I straight up ripped that off. Yeah, they basically are just like their primary, basically intimacy is to follow her. That she is destined for greatness.
Right.
For passion, it's actually my influences were Lust from Full Metal Alchemist.
yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
And
I didn't want to say it during the fight, but I was
trying for that one.
I was like, oh, the ultimate spear. Okay.
Yep. And also Lorana from Dragonlance. So a little bit of, I tried to put a little bit of her in there as well. In the sense that she rode in on a dragon and she was a ward leader.
I didn't necessarily pick up on that in game, but looking back, I can see that.
Yeah. And that was her like war leadership thing. And I wanted really badly to kind of show that moment where she's facing off with Sturm, Brightblade, up on the wall, and he's standing on the wall, and she's like on the dragon.
If you had done that, I would have
you would have got it.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing that they saw in the distance, but you weren't there for.
Gotcha.
So you would have caught it at that moment.
Yeah, I would have.
So you're gonna have to go back and listen to that episode that you missed out on.
Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of the Dragonlance novels.
Yeah,
because he wasn't in the room for that.
Yep.
I actually know Tracy Hickman.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the moment.
Family.
There's a moment that you weren't here for the recording because you're in the other room.
Right.
But they see in the distance her come up to the wall, talk to somebody up on the wall, and then there's an explosion.
I would have. Yeah, I would have gotten that reference right away.
And they because basically what happened is they time traveled. They saw like the wall falling. You're standing up there and you're not enough by yourself because you're also gonna get stabbed in the back, kind of thing. Yep. So that was a fun moment. You'll have to listen to that part to catch it. But yeah.
It'll be wild.
So also that you missed is that Zephaniah, basically he was the one that took the prisoners away and led them to a city to the north, and put them there. In some ways, I guess he's the least negative, but he's not allowed to be as good as he wants to be.
Yeah.
Because
I never met him.
Yep. He's shackled basically. There's only so
probably
much
would have liked him. He would have probably been the one.
As soon as they were describing how they came about.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when I knew it was him.
Yep. Well, and I specifically described people just ignoring him because that's a sidereal thing.
It was good.
Like he can just walk into rooms and no one thinks anything about it. He can be a part of a meeting and everyone just ignores him. So I knew you were picking up.
Well, I was like, I'm going to ask him to stay or to leave us alone. And I was like, wait, no. I don't want to do that because I'm pretty sure I know what he is.
Yeah.
And that'll mess everything up. So I just let it happen because that's what would have...
Well, like if you had tried to draw attention to him a little bit more, like you had actually specifically pointed him out, like everyone in the room would have turned to look at him.
And then before we got into that room, I was going to be like, why don't you stay here?
Yeah.
I almost like made him do that, but I was like, I wouldn't. Like I had a feeling of what he was.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about them before.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And if
I wouldn't have thought to do that.
Gotcha.
The character would not have thought to do that.
Right.
So I didn't.
And if you would specifically tried to draw attention to him during the meeting, like everyone in the meeting would have turned and looked at him like, who's that? And then a second later would have just gone back as if you had not said anything.
Yeah.
He would have spent a charm to be like, nope, not actually here.
Yep.
So what did you like? Obviously, this last combat.
I know you didn't expect me. We talked about this off camera, but I kind of want to bring it up now. You didn't expect my ulterior motives.
Oh yes.
When I was negotiating with them in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. So when the old lady came up and like felt your palms, what I should have been saying is, I should have gone, okay, out of character, is everything you've been saying the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Because if it was, then her reaction would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
Her hugging you, oh, good. Finally, a good person and a powerful one at that. That's something we need. She basically had some god blood to her, so she was able to read intentions that way. But I didn't ask you that, and so what I found out later was that your intentions were, oh yeah, this is half the truth, but if it becomes convenient, I'm going to sell these guys out to keep the peace.
Yep. I was going to sacrifice their whole city.
At which point she would have gone, oh, and like looked around at everybody like, oh no. And so she might have even tried to slap you at that point.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about retconning that, but I decided it wouldn't really matter because it already happened, and whatever. It trying to explain that retconning me, it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't going to come up in the story anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a good faith offer. But like in the long game, Otto's thing, return peace to the land, they were culpable in the breaking of the treaty. So he was gonna, and they made it very clear they were not willing to give up those 12 lives.
Yeah.
So they were all going to suffer for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, a couple of things I forgot. I had intended for this last recording session that we've had, which is several episodes, to give you guys another merit set for like a free set of merits, like I did. I don't know, maybe it was like the 6th episode or something like that.
Yeah.
So I gave Scott his because that happened right off the bat, and I knew that was going to happen right off the bat. But I had for you backing with the Hislanti League or command, 2 dots either way.
Oh, well, I already had backing.
Oh, you're with Hislanti, so it would have gone up.
Hmm.
So you would have got an extra dot of it. What did you have 2 dots in it?
I think so.
So yeah, you would end up with 3 dots.
Yeah, 2.
Or I would have given the option of have command of a unit of soldiers from the Dauntless.
Oh, okay.
Either one of those, up to you. And then for Tim, I was going to give him an evocation from his mask, his artifact. It's
basically going to protect him from me.
Yeah, it was too strong, but really realistically, but it's called Sinuous Liquid Escape. For 2 motes, he can roll Dex plus Dodge in a grapple instead of Strength plus Brawl, and so it would actually give him a chance to escape grapples. I mean, I was really looking through the book for something appropriate. I even looked at Hearthstones for a little while as a possibility, but as cool as some of the Hearthstones were, they really weren't going to do anything in this game. So I just
Dex was 10. Yes. So you would have had 1 dice less than me.
So
Because I
yeah,
have a specialty in grappling.
but it would have
Oh,
still
wow.
given him a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have gone from he has 0 chance of escaping your grapple to he has a chance, like an equal chance,
Yeah.
pretty much with you.
Yeah.
Brings him up to pretty close to.
I had a specialty for type spaces, so I don't know where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about the way you
In
guys
my
made
fist.
your characters, and that really led into to a lot of the fun for me of this game, was that none of you started off with a cult, and very little in the way of lore.
Which is interesting because normally GMs want an avenue for exposition.
Sure. To be able to give things to you. But
Yeah.
it was actually a lot of fun this game to just present you guys with all this weird crap happening and then no explanation whatsoever.
Yeah.
So there was all these times where you were jumping into conclusions. Like, for instance, when you guys were walking up the walkway to the undead castle, and the blue lights kept coming on, you're like, "Oh no, it's a solar detector, or
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
powerful entity detector." All it was is basically the like
A
the
life
light,
detector.
and not even that so much. It was more like a motion detector lights. So
Huh.
they're just supposed to light up the pathway for anybody walking up the walkway there. And so I loved that moment.
Nice.
And
Here's
and
a
like,
convenient thing for visitors to
Yeah.
have.
And then
we're
I-
like, fuck.
Yeah,
fuck,
Does they get
exactly.
a lot of visitors at the Castle of the Dead?
no, but like it's just a thing that
They're
that-
just trying to,
Yeah.
brighten their appearance,
pretty much.
be more, public friendly.
There was leftover from. the
It's
first
actually
age.
more for the convenience of the two main leaders there themselves. Like when they're walking up and down the path, it lights up for them.
Yeah.
And I loved giving the genius of Plate and Bone, showing her cast mark showing up, but trying to describe it like she had a lens over it to help focus what she's looking at. But that was straight up her cast mark showing up when she was weaving
Yeah.
together things. And then, like, you guys had no idea what that was, because I didn't explain to you what an Abyssal Exalted was.
Nope.
And that was also really fun on that, like, in between the exposition episode.
Which is one of the reasons why I kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Is because we saw that thing. We saw the cast mark.
Yeah.
And she wasn't trying to kill us right away.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, we can kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it just creeped me.
Yes. But, like,
I was like, all right, well, let's just break her ladders.
yeah. That was the really great part also, is that in between the exposition episode and episode 1, so while you guys were making your characters, I was over here making 2 other characters. Because I had 5 characters. We had 5 character sheets.
Right.
And I started making them, "Oh, you're just making the NPCs that'll help us out eventually." And I was like, "Yes, help you out." Sure they will. Maybe.
Well, I figured it was you were making the other 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought too.
And it was. So the Genius of Plate and Bone was your Zenith cast, which is Daybreak for Abyssals. And then Passion Passion is your Zenith cast, which is Midnight. Genius is your Twilight cast, so the Crafters, and she's they're called Daybreak. And so, like, I gave her, like, no one really chose craft, so I gave her a lot of craft, and like half of her charms pretty much are crafting charms. She
Yeah.
had sorcery, so she was using invulnerable skin to bronze. That's why she always has bronze skin. And I described several times the weirdness of her skin, because she basically casts that at the start of every day, so that she's protected. And both of them I gave at least some amount of warfare, with Passion a lot. It was 5 dots. Like, that was her supernal ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so if she had gotten a chance to actually lead her battle group into combat, like, it would have been devastating.
Yeah.
Because she basically gets to treat them as 1 level higher in drill. They're immune from having to make their route checks.
Wow.
Like, all of this crazy stuff. Like, they're getting bonuses all up the wazoo and everything.
If the other 2, if everybody had attacked us, but Klaus wasn't there, then I would have gone after her, because I still didn't.
Yeah.
My character didn't know, and she would have been perceived as the biggest threat.
And then
But when
definitely
he stepped up, he perceived him as the biggest threat, and that's why I went after him right
Well,
away.
and I flat out told you we got to kill that guy.
Yeah. And definitely, like, I wanted
Like,
him
because
to be...
he was in my crosshairs the whole time.
And I figured he
But
was
once we
going to be
found
the
out
one
about
that
him,
way you would be able to go toe to toe with me.
Yeah.
Because I've always gone after the big guy first.
Yeah. And,
So-
I did to some extent, but I probably should have given him more grappling abilities. He only had 10 dice in controlling a grapple.
Well,
Or given him some kind of... I should have just made up some kind of ability for him to help get out of grapples or survive them somehow. But no,
Yeah.
it was fine. I mean, he did just fine. Like, it ended up...
well, yeah.
The
I mean,
dice was fine.
literally, we were like
Going toe-to-toe.
toe to
pretty well.
toe for the majority of the fight. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, part of it was his buddy. He couldn't take me on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I by the way,
Well,
I did
and
love...
I saved my ass
yeah,
by
by
dropping the
yeah.
you can't touch me.
Majestic Radiant.
Yeah, and if
Presence.
you hadn't done that, then he would have never attacked me.
Yeah, the archer would
Yeah.
have just nuked you.
Yeah.
He would have taken you out first, and then with your loss, it's action economy
Yeah.
starts benefiting them a little more.
Yeah.
And it was definitely possible for this to be a 3 and or 4-way fight at the end, because there's 2 other lunars, like I was saying, being your 2 mates.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is basically a giant as well, giantess. That was
That wouldn't have been obvious at all.
nope.
Right.
Not nearly as big as you, but still, like, basically just doesn't give a shit about anything. And she
Might give a shit, but
well, I mean,
I just
in
don't
a
give
sense,
a shit about trivial
like,
things.
yeah,
like,
exactly. She just ignores the trivial things.
You can't
She
go there.
basically stayed north
Are you
and was
gonna stop me?
her and the other one were staying north and fighting an entire invasion. And so they were going to be the ones that showed up and been like, good job, guys.
Wait, so
You fought the little things.
our mates were buddies.
Or what?
Our
what?
mates were buddies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your circle worth of mates stayed together. So every time they died and reincarnated, they met back up and stayed stuck together.
Yeah, my whole thought was that I was the annoying little brother to his character,
Oh.
and so I would just take his stuff, hang out with his stuff, do some
Okay.
stuff, and just annoy him.
You did
I-
well at that.
Yeah, but I never did anything against him that specifically went exactly opposite of what he wanted, just at a different angle and
Except
annoyed
for
him.
every time I tried to attack somebody, you pushed them
Yes.
out of the way.
Because most of the time, my character's feeling was that, okay, I need to prevent you from killing this guy because we need him right now.
Nice.
But do you know how frustrating that is for someone
Yeah.
who's just built to do that?
Yes.
And I actually want to ask this, Scott, because it seemed like you were very frustrated at several points in the game.
Yeah.
Like with the mechanics, with the way the game was running, with what Tim was doing.
The mechanics are what frustrated me.
Okay.
Tim frustrated my character,
Yeah.
but that was part of the role play.
Right.
Mhm.
It didn't frustrate me as a player. I understood his motivations as a player.
Okay.
I was just reacting in character.
Yeah. And I think the mechanics are largely my fault because I
And yeah,
I
I
didn't
think the
understand them well
mechanics.
to begin with.
Yes.
I would like to try Exalted again now that we've got a better handle on the mechanics at some point in the future.
Damn,
But
not sure.
Dan's a firm no.
Okay.
Dan's done it once.
Well, hold on. We'll
It
come back.
being-
We're going to story right now. We'll go to the actual gaming system
Okay.
here in a minute.
story-wise, I wasn't really frustrated with it. I actually liked the story. I enjoyed it.
Mm. And I tried really hard to play off of your hideousness, but also your heart of gold thing.
Yeah.
So the
And I think
initial
you-
reaction to
You
a
did
lot
that
of people
well. A lot of
was negative.
especially with it being the same people that tried to run me out, being the ones that say, "Hey, we're gonna follow you."
Yeah.
We see where.
Mhm.
Story wise, I think you did really really well with your plot line. I think you did really well with your NPCs' reactions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly mechanics things that frustrated me,
Okay.
and I'm like a 90% no for doing it again. I would be willing to try it again because mechanics are
Yeah.
more understood at this point. But I think mechanics, and I know you were saying you were using D&D terms too, but even just in this game, some of the terminology overlaps in a way that is not directly intuitive.
Yeah.
And
I'll
that's
agree
what
with the intuitive
frustrated
part.
with me. That's what mainly frustrated me. It's because you would say these things with the terminology from the book and stuff, and
There'd still be a misunderstanding between us.
I would understand how we had used the terms before, but then the terms meant something different, and it didn't make sense. It's not really intuitive with their terminology, which I don't like.
Yeah.
Of all of us, I came into this game with the most bias against it.
Yeah.
Alex has been trying to get me to play Exalted since we met.
Pretty much.
And through one means or another, I've managed to avoid it.
Until your vote counted.
Yep. And one person I know specifically who voted specifically because he knew I didn't want to play Exalted.
Yep.
Is it who I'm thinking of?
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's what I thought. Good job, BJ. I love you, dude.
Yeah. So, yeah, which made me laugh.
Yeah.
So if you want to see him
Okay.
play it again, support us on Patreon and vote.
I just have to pitch Exalted again. It'll happen.
All three of us should pitch an Exalted game.
No.
No.
I do not like it enough to run a game or invest in the book.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just.
If you go to our website, we have a section called Under the Hood, where we discuss mechanics, and I think 3 of mine, two or 3, have been things that annoy me about Exalted.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now we'll do the complete.
No, okay. I think I've done 3 to this date on Exalted specifically. 2 of them have been gripes. One of them was, this is cool.
And what you liked was the way they do tens instead of exploding, they
Just
become
double.
2 successes.
Yeah.
And I'd like that too. I think it's easier, faster,
Yeah.
and means more.
Well, yeah, and thematically, like I say in the piece, it's about you guys are these characters are basically demigods. They're supposed to succeed at whatever they attempt.
Yeah.
So the target number on the die is lower. Tens double. You can get things that double 9s, things that double 8s.
Things that let
So-
you re-roll things that aren't successes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that way, that mechanic it reinforces what you are, and I like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just found myself more frustrated than
Yeah.
more than not
Did you?
with I want to do this thing. Fuck, if I do it, I'm going to reveal what I am.
Yep.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
part.
found that.
I mean, that is.
Other than
What is
the very first scene when I did it, and I did it because I knew it was safe.
Yep.
Which blew
You-
Tim's mind.
You did it then, and then
Yeah.
there was one battle where I think.
Well, and I did it in private
either
because
we-
I could commit.
Oh, speaking
The-
of that moment, that was in the house. You did that.
Yeah.
And it was in front of the soldier that you guys had captured.
Mhm.
In the room was 2 other groups of people. One was your followers, and the other was the refugees. And I did describe the refugees being, one of them disappears. That one is, ends up being one of the guys that's been turned. But most importantly, they had, at that point, already had a guy in there. And so, yeah, they knew exactly what you guys were. And I tried to make sure that I didn't have anybody knowing who you were until they had a reason to know who you were, except for your other 2 circle mates. They just knew you on sight.
Yeah. And I knew
Because
that was going to be a potential problem.
Yeah, so basically everybody knew who you guys were rather quickly.
Yeah.
But had reasons why they didn't want to just shout that from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
Because bringing
dragon.
Wild the Hunt down
Yeah.
would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would be bad for all of them. There was a couple other little things that I threw in there, but they never came up, so it's not really important.
Okay. So
For mechanics,
yeah.
What do you think, Tim?
Mechanics wise, I don't know. I think it kind of fits the storytelling. It makes it like you've already said. It makes it easier for my character is super awesome, god person in comparison to anything else here, and the dice show it.
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed. So I like that it fits and whatever. I don't like the idea of if I use my power, all of creation is going to come after me. Even if I am a god, I can still die because some random Joe Schmo showed up at the right moment with his army.
With an army.
With an army.
It's just some random guy with 12,000 soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, being hunted, sure, that's pretty cool, but okay, I just show even if I help these people and get them to like me, most likely they are going to tell the army, oh, these guys are going mad.
Well, that's the Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Right.
Yeah.
Horu episode.
Yeah.
When Katara gets him to help that old dude from being crushed in the mine, and then
They still turn him in.
yeah, he turns him in anyway.
Yeah, I've never liked that at all. I helped you, and you're still going to stab me in the back. That makes little to no sense.
Well,
I mean, if
people
you
suck.
That old man probably got paid a lot. There's probably a bounty on Earthbenders,
Yeah.
and now he don't have to work in the mines where he almost died.
Yeah. I still don't like it. But yeah, I mean, mechanics-wise, I didn't really have much problem. It was a little confusing because we just didn't know the system as well as we should have.
Yeah. That's definitely partly my fault, but I'll try to excuse part of that by saying that I'm a high school teacher and I'm teaching a brand new subject that I've never learned anything about. So the preparation times get pretty brutal.
Yeah. But
Well, and that's part of the reason for this podcast is to try new systems and see if we
Yeah.
like them or not.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, actually, let's do a rating for what you guys think about it.
on a scale of what?
1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the
Alex, we'll let you start.
I might not say. Well, what do I say? Okay. Story wise and like setting wise, Exalted is my favorite setting.
I can
Beyond
agree.
anything I played or ran, anything. I just love the setting of Exalted. I love how you can do and be whatever the crap you want. I mean, the sky is not even close to the limit. You can do so many different things. I love that about Exalted, and I love the charms that are letting you leap tall buildings in a single bound. All of
like
that's
that
really
one.
awesome to me. Combat did seem to drag a little bit this time around. So I think that's I do like some of the things they put into the combat, but at the same time I think it still takes a little bit too long.
So
Otherwise, so story it's perfect 10 for me, or like setting kind of thing. Mechanics are still too dense even for me, and I love dense mechanics, but they might be still a little bit too dense for me. And combat takes too long, so maybe an 8 or so on mechanics. 8 or 9, I don't know, somewhere in there.
So you're
So
giving
an
it a
average of
9
9?
overall.
Yeah, 9 overall.
All right.
Dan,
Oh, Dan?
No, me.
Go on.
Go from one side to the other.
5 or 6
For what?
overall.
Overall?
Yeah. The setting is intriguing. It's because it's so open ended. You can do basically whatever you wanted.
Yeah, and eventually,
I mean, a way to think about it is it's every single D&D realm in one place because it's so big.
Yeah.
So you can do anything. So that's nice from a player and GM standpoint. But yeah, I don't like, as awesome as it can be, I don't like the deck being stacked in the character's favor to accomplish what they're trying to do. I like a little more grit, I guess. That's why I like Shadowrun and World of Darkness, because that grit's there. So,
okay, a high probability of death at all, any fight you're in almost.
so Scott.
Me, story-wise, I like the setting. I, on the other hand, am not a fan of everybody being uber powerful. That's just not me. I like, more realistic a more realistic character than everybody is a superhero.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the Marvel role-playing games, you're more human than these guys
Yeah.
are, and those are supposed to be superhuman.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a fan of that, but I do like the setting. I do like the backstory of a lot of things, and think it has a lot of potential. Mechanics, I've already said most of what I think about the mechanics. I do think they're too dense. I do think they need to clarify their terminology better. I'd say overall I'd give it about a 5 or 6. I'm with Dan on that one.
Me, I like the story as well. I think universally everybody can like the story, the setting. It has everything. Unlike you guys, I actually like the idea of being super overpowered.
Yeah.
Because I like coming to a game and escaping reality, and when you keep trying to bog me down by bringing me back to reality, you can't do that. That kind of takes away from me for a little bit. I get over it pretty quickly. But I like the idea, at least doing it for a little bit. So that's not a problem for me. Mechanics-wise, yeah, mechanics are just get a little too complicated there for no real reason. They just need to simplify it a bit more. So I'll give it a 6 to 7 overall.
So if you want a great story setting and like overlapping terminology and dense mechanics, then this is the game for you.
Well, if you like the back and forth
Fighting,
combat,
decisive and winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint I think we all have.
Yeah,
Is
the decisive and withering is. I mean, it's an interesting mechanic, but I don't think it fits for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me would be like doing a skills challenge from D&D, just adding something different to make skills challenges or just to make 1 or 2 fights more interesting.
I think there should be something to speed up combat for some situations. And there is, to an extent. It says that like anytime you're dealing with regular mundane enemies, you should just be able to make a regular attack roll. If you get 2 or 3 successes or whatever the difficulty is, it succeeds.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted the first couple of combats to introduce you guys to the combat so that we could have it roll a little bit better later on.
Yeah.
So that was kind of partly due to how I was running the game, that it happened so much.
Well,
But still, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it does a good job of doing that of the anime build up.
Yeah.
And then you get your opponent off balance, and then hit them. I guess I'm less of a fan of using my initiative to do damage. And
that it just made the damage of the weapon completely useless. You give me a damage stat for this weapon, but I never used it ever.
For withering attacks, you do.
Yeah.
To get your initiative up.
And
But yeah.
I think also part of the problem was I think I was doing soak wrong, in that a soak I think is only supposed to apply to withering attacks, and it's hardness that applies to decisive. So you guys probably should have killed those guys a lot sooner, because if they're crashed, their hardness goes to 0.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was partly my mistake, and that fight shouldn't have lasted as long as it did. But
whatever. Too late now.
Yep.
Nope, go back and demand rerolls.
Tune in next time when we redo everything.
No. Okay.
Should we announce next season?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Next season is going to be Legend of the Five Rings. Our patrons voted and decided that that's what we're going to do.
Our patron. No, patrons. Kidding.
So yeah, these guys are going to be helping solve a inheritance and land dispute. It will be more interesting than episode 1. I guarantee it.
in episode 1? Star Wars? Star Wars. Yeah. I sure hope so.
Now that you said that, someone's got to make Jar Jar Binks.
Damn it! Guess that's me. I'm the youngest. Youngest gets his first straw.
Please don't. So let's see.
Or how about the Sith Jar Jar?
A Shugenja, a courtier, a monk, or none of the above and useless. Okay, I'll choose option 5.
Jar Jar is definitely Etta.
Etta, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with the fan theory Jar Jar, where he's actually the Sith Lord manipulating things from the background.
No, not even then.
But anyway, join us next week to get an overview of the game and watch our characters come to life, and subscribe so that you can vote in the next campaign.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hope you like this. Yeah, whatever. Bye.